Hi everybody, this is Gig. This is Simply Bud, and I'm just here today to do another video here. This is what the title of it is: "You'll Never Be Rich," and that's the best news I can give you. Like this guy, he's the Broke Millionaire, a Broke Millionaire. Go ahead and join his channel. But I always like what he has to say. Go ahead.
Recently, I walked away from a business that I helped start up, something that had the potential to make me, and those around me, millions of dollars. I pumped the brakes because of what I thought it would do to my health and my lifestyle. And they didn't like that, so I was pushed out. And some people might think I'm a little crazy because I'm pretty close to broke right now, and giving up millions of dollars, it's a lot of money. But when it came down to it, there's something way more important to me than money. And that's what this video is about. Because what I've learned from building multiple multi-million dollar companies and walking away from all of them is this. The pursuit of riches, the way that society has defined it for us, just keeps you short of being actually free and happy. We're productive, we're consuming, we're dependent, and we're also stressed out and always chasing more and more. It's the nature of the system we've been taught. And so in the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to show you why that pursuit is a trap and what actually builds the life that we think that money will buy. And so here's the sort of counterintuitive truth that I've realized, that this current system that we're in was never meant to make us happy. It was.
Yeah, I would have to agree with him that I've worked 70, 80 hours a week before, and during busy season, I'm in insurance business, I'm in insurance field, and you make a lot of money, but then the rest of the year it's slow. So you're kind of just treading water for the rest of the year, and then you just pay all the debts you had off earlier from the year that you put on your credit cards, or you put on loans, or you put on whatever to pay those back. And not to mention mortgages, rent, whatever people are paying, car payments, car notes, and stuff like that. So yeah, it does add up. So I do agree with them that the to be more productive is good. However, it seems like the more productive you are, the more issues you're always going to have, and it's never going to seem to be enough, like he's saying. And I tend to agree with him. And this is some pretty good insight. Let's take a look. Let's continue.
Meant to keep us productive and keep us consuming. And the problem with that is the thing that keeps us consuming is always feeling like we don't have enough and that we need more to be happy. That's the psychology behind it. And that's a terrible way to live. And so here's the path that we're sold. Go to school, take on debt to go to school, get a job, and trade your time for income. Buy things, cars, houses, vacations. Take on more debt so you can get these things that we're told will make us happy, and then work harder to service that debt so that you can retire one day and be happy and die. And at every stage of that path, someone or something is extracting from you, whether it's the student loan officer, the bank, our employers, the subscription.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that are having issues with student loans. 60,000, 100,000, 250,000, and they might be a chiropractor, they might be a doctor, they might just be a regular worker that you work with, and they're making like 70 grand a year. It's going to take them forever to pay that off. I mean, it's just crazy. And the thing is, you can't file bankruptcy because it's through the federal government.
Economy, the portfolio managers who get paid whether you actually gain or not, and the healthcare system waiting at the end to sell you drugs and keep you alive enough for them to be profitable. And so here's what's happened to the deal while we follow this path.
Yeah, he's right about that. Basically, the average person lives to about 55 to 60. And then for about 20 years, they're kept alive with pharmaceuticals. I'm in the insurance field, and I deal with a lot of seniors above 65 years old that have Medicare. And a lot of them are on 5, 7, 10 prescriptions. A lot of these medications are probably not even needed because a lot of it's just just lifestyle, poor choices, diabetes medication. These aren't type 1 medications, they're type 2 medications like metformin, Ozempic, things like that, insulin, things like that. Yeah, there's stuff that's needed, but like I said, a lot of that stuff just keeps you alive for 20 years just to drain all the retirement and resources out. That's all I wanted to say on that.
Look back to the 70s is productivity increased. We got better at working, but wages didn't. Pensions disappeared. Housing became pretty much unaffordable for the young and aspiring. And the retirement that you were promised becomes pretty much impossible unless, of course, you're in Congress and you get access to insider trading. And what I realized is that the middle class path was possible for one generation. And that was the baby boom generation. And it's not their fault. They just had the numbers that made it possible. And those numbers and those conditions no longer exist. Our parents' past considered that our incomes would just keep rising, but they haven't. That housing would stay affordable, but it isn't.
Yeah, so that's because just making sure I'm not on mute. I got the air conditioning and I got a dehumidifier going. It's raining out. I'm in a basement. So basically, the productivity went up because of feminism, went off the gold standard in 1971, and things of that nature. That's what happened. Productivity went up, and you have more people in the workforce. So market dictates that the more workers you have, the less need you have. You don't have as much as a worker shortage, so you can lower wages while increasing productivity. It's really just a nasty, vicious catch-22. On one hand, yes, it did help women get out of the, they gave them more choice, but it also kind of ruined any semblance of a middle class after the baby boomers, like Gen X, maybe a little bit like my generation, but Gen Z and Gen Alpha, it's going to be very tough for them.
And pensions would be there at the end. But none of that is true anymore. But here's what makes this worse than just an economic con, is that it's a psychological con as well. And how is that? It's because the pursuit of riches, as this society has defined it, always keeps you wanting, always keeps you struggling for more, never quite there and never quite happy. Why? Because if you felt you'd arrived or that you were happy and that this was it, you'd stop consuming. And that doesn't work in this system. You need to keep consuming for the system to work.
Yeah, that's exactly. He's 100% right. He's very smart, very intelligent channel. Broke Millionaire. Go ahead and check his channel out. I love what he says. He makes a lot of sense, and just look like I'm pretty much around the same age as he is. I'm like in my late 40s, but he lives in the Baja over there in Mexico. But I would say that you're not quite happy enough, and the thing is that I forgot what the speech was. I think it was Jimmy Carter, and I'll have to go back to it in another video, but where he talks about, I think it was his Malay speech in 1979, where he said that people just consume things, but not having any source of meaning. And I think that happiness is a temporary emotion. The true purpose for all of us that keeps us going is meaning. And I think meaning comes in many forms. It comes from loving another person. It comes from mowing the lawn for somebody, one of your older relatives. Meaning and purpose, and I want to help others and doing good for society and leave it better for the generation when I leave this earth. But we tend to have more of a consumerism type, me only type of economy, and that's going to have some deleterious effects in a couple of generations.
And so a person who stops pursuing that never-ending lack of happiness is a person who stops consuming. And a person who stops consuming is useless to the machine. In other words, the goalpost always moves by design. And that's not a conspiracy. That's the plain, obvious architecture of it. And what I keep learning
Preach,
all
brother,
the time
preach.
is that if you rebel against it while you are in it, they don't like you at all. And you will be thrown out pretty quickly. So let me name the mechanism that I think runs most people's financial lives right now. And let's call it the phantom number. Now, you may have a number in your head, the number that means you've made it. Now, my number when I was young was $1 million. If I could pay myself a check for $1 million, then I would have made it. And for most of us, it's that number where we think, oh, that's when the anxiety stops and the freedom starts. For some, it might be $1 million. For some, it might be 5 million, 10 million. And for some, it's just enough to feel comfortable, pay your bills, have a little bit extra to get by. Here's the thing, the specific amount doesn't really matter. Here's what really matters. That number isn't real. It's not actually anchored to a specific amount, a real calculation of what your life requires. It's typically anchored to comparison, to what the people around you have, to what the culture tells you success looks like, and to the version of yourself that you're trying to prove is worthy. And I know this because I hit the number. I wrote myself a check for $1 million, and it didn't feel like I thought it would feel. It just became another notch, and then I was immediately looking at, okay.
Yeah, when I built when I paid off all my debt a couple of years ago, and I built my first 25,000. You know, for me, it was like, okay, when I hit that goal when I was younger, 25,000 put away, and then another 25,000, whatever. It was like, it was okay. It was just another number. But then, you can lose all that with one decision from your employer that they let you go. Or you try to go out on your own and you fail, and or you're struggling or whatever. A lot of that stuff can be reversed very rapidly because it is such a consumerist society based on pers- I was going to say prescriptions, based on subscriptions. But not only that, it's like nothing is owned anymore. Everything's being rented out.
This didn't work. What's next? And I'm not even mentioning the amount of taxes I had to pay on that $1 million that made it even worse. And it wasn't because I was greedy. It's just because that's the way the phantom number works. The moment I arrived at that $1 million, the psychological pressure just went to the next number. What's next? The goalpost shifted automatically. And I don't think it was a character flaw. I think it's because I was just in the system and I had been trained that way. And of course, it's just the way that humans operate. We sort of calibrate and compare ourselves. And then we think, how do I get better? How do I get ahead? And it's not really set to any standard. We sort of lost that. And then in a society where we are specifically trained to keep moving that number up so that we consume, it can become never ending. You will never catch that number because the number didn't mean anything. And here's the good news. And I mean that seriously. There's good news here. And that is you will never be rich by that definition. And that is the most liberating thing that I could tell you. Because the moment that you accept that that phantom number doesn't exist, isn't a real number, then you're in a different place. The phantom number is like a treadmill. And as long as you're on the treadmill, you keep running. But when you step off the treadmill, then you have the time to ask the real question, which is, what does my life genuinely require to feel good to me? Not what does it require to look successful, or what does it require so that other.
Exactly. A lot of it is just keeping up with the Joneses, and excuse me, it's about keeping up with the Joneses and or doing what they have. That's a phantom number, like you said. And I kind of came to that acceptance where, in my life and like right now, there used to be a certain amount. Now it's just okay. Well, it's like this, and you have certain insurances in place, disability, income replacement insurance, certain life insurance policies, whatever. Yeah, it is what it is. You do what you can and, basically have your own goals. But like, as far as it is a phantom number. Like you say, okay, I want $1 million or something like that. But are you comparing yourself to somebody in your group that makes, that has a 4,000 square foot house and, grosses $4 million a year? That's a pretty unrealistic expectation. I think most people would probably be happy with being able to pay their bills, having very low credit card debt, less than 10% of their balance, and basically being able to put some at least 10% of their income away and have a little bit of a nest egg, not too much, and be able to go take two vacations a year. I think that would be probably ideal for a lot of people. Tell me what you think. Leave it in the comments. This is Simply Bud, and it was a pleasure talking to you guys today. Go ahead and check out his channel, Broke Millionaire. I really recommend it. You guys have a good one, and I'll see you on the next one. God bless.